Hi everyone, my name is Jessica Sharowski and I work on a busy med-surg floor, and my leadership synthesis project was on implementing bedside reporting at change of shift to increase patient satisfaction and nurse communication. Ultimately, bedside rounding improves patient safety over traditional nurse change of shift report. The current issue is traditional change of shift report that occurs at the nurse's station, outside the patient's room, or in the charting room. This leaves patients left out of their care, and critical information is often missing. The issues on my own unit with this kind of reporting is that it doesn't paint an adequate picture of the patient's condition. How often have you gotten a report and the nurse says the patient is doing great, only to walk into a disaster? There were many times that IV bags were empty, IV sites were leaking, drains full to capacity, and so on and so forth. So how do we fix this problem? The answer is bedside rounding. Completing handoff at the bedside allows the nurse to perform a visual assessment of the patient he or she is taking over. Inspection is performed to make sure IV fluids are running and the bags aren't empty, IV sites to make sure they aren't expired or leaking or infiltrated, check drains and wound vacs, etc. This is a valuable time as well for the nurse to ask questions about anything they are unfamiliar with. Seeing it in place on the patient, the nurse can say, "Hey, let me show you how this works," rather than coming into the patient's room for the first time, totally lost. The last major benefit is the patient and family get to be more involved in their care. During a bedside report, the nurse includes the patient and his or her family in the plan of care. Patients feel a greater sense of involvement and improved satisfaction than if the shift-to-shift report was given in the nurse's station or in a room away from the patients. The team for this project consisted of the nurse manager of the unit, the director of nursing, both day and night shift nurses, and a PCA. My nurse manager was very heavily involved in the project and thought it was a great idea that she had been wanting to do for a while. The night shift and day shift nurses involved in this project were looking to be involved in a change on the unit. They had enough of coming into a room and things being wrong or a mess, and the patient's condition was not ideal. A PCA was invited as well for her perspective and for a possible future change that would be a PCA huddle. They currently don't exchange on a report, but it would be valuable to patient care to consider them giving reports similar to the nurses do. The aim of this project is to improve patient satisfaction scores, specifically in the area of communication with nurses, and also improve nurse-to-nurse communication. Therefore, the first goal is to increase patient satisfaction scores in the area of nurse communication and responsiveness. The second goal was to see an improvement in nurse-to-nurse communication. And third goal was to finally improve communication between nurses and PCAs. In order to test the change, the project was rolled out first on a small scale. Only a few people on the unit, those in the group, participated. In the beginning, they were just going to see the patient and didn't actually give report in the room. This was defeating the whole purpose of bedside reporting, and nothing was accomplished. Some changes were made, and after the kinks were worked out, everyone on the unit was encouraged to participate. As for implementation, everyone was encouraged to participate in bedside rounding, with it becoming mandatory later on in the phase. Bedside rounding involves both the outgoing nurse and the oncoming nurse in the patient's room. They bring a WOW in with them and follow SBAR. The WOW is used to check the orders, so one nurse confirms the proper fluids, diet, activity, etc. At this point also, the oncoming nurse can ask any questions. In addition, the patient is encouraged to ask and add their own input. The patient gets to meet with their nurse, who it's going to be for the day, and the nurse gets to lay eyes on their patient. This report should only take about 5 minutes, leaving plenty of time for all the other patients that she might have. In order to spread the change, PDSA cycles are repeated over and over, changing one thing at a time. seeing the results from the new practice change and continuing on a larger scale. Once results are repeatable and achievable, large-scale changes can be made. With this project, we started with just a small group of nurses on the floor, made some adjustments to achieve good results, then encouraged everyone on the unit to participate. After the success in the unit, bedside reporting can be rolled out to other units in the hospital as well. Implementing bedside rounding helped our patient satisfaction scores improve from March to April. Communication during this time with nurses increased from 57.7 up to 95.8. Responsiveness of hospital staff saw a steady increase from February to April, from 43.6 to 54.8, all the way up to 99.2. Not only did patient satisfaction increase, but nurse-to-nurse communication improved as well. Majority of the nurses I spoke to verbalized to me that bedside reporting helped them assess the patient from the very start of their shift and see what they were getting into for the day. The reports were more focused since there was no time for getting off topic while you're in a patient's room. They could see exactly what was running, assess the IV sites and drains, and ask questions about unfamiliar devices. The newer nurses were more enthusiastic about bedside reporting and benefited more than the seasoned nurses. Of course, some dragged their feet the entire way, which can happen with any change. One of the biggest improvements, as verbalized during rounds performed by the nurse manager, was the patients being more involved in their care. They liked seeing who their nurse was going to be for the day and might have the opportunity to get to ask questions and not just feel like they were being gossiped about outside their room. The one goal that we did not get to in this project was communication with PCAs, and that's going to be for another step of this change project. Overall, though, this project was a success, and we continued long after the semester is over and hope to be rolled out to other units in the hospital. Thanks for watching.